So, everyone I know today is talking about Jerome Powell comments and how it's boosted Ethereum to a new all-time high. But I'm here to tell you that there's another reason that Ethereum and Solana might actually be able to break out to very high prices soon, and it has to do with a magical word of utility. Now, I don't really believe in utility, but certain utility news does spark FOMO. This one has to do with CBDCs, which I do believe are going to be a big part of the future. Maybe not for retailers, but maybe for like businesses and other investors and such. And this is a big CBDC. It is the actual EU CBDC. And they're looking at which chains they're going to use. And they're looking at Ethereum and Solana, which is why they might actually draw a lot of FOMO soon, because a EU CBDC is actually sort of a big deal. The EU is exploring Ethereum and Solana for its digital euro, marking a shift towards public blockchains over private models like China's CBDC. So they are not doing what China did with their CBDC. They are looking at a public blockchain, which is obviously good for us. So the European Union is reportedly exploring major blockchain networks, including Ethereum and Solana, in connection with its digital euro design. The European Central Bank is considering running a digital euro on a public blockchain like Ethereum rather than a private one, the Financial Times reported on Friday, citing people familiar with the matter. Unlike a private blockchain where data is limited to authorized entities, public blockchains like Ethereum or Solana are open to everyone, so they're looking at public blockchains to store data. If confirmed, the EU's exploration of public blockchains would represent a significant milestone in the digital euro's development, given that the ECB has not yet finalized the technology framework for the project. So they are still trying to decide, but it will probably be multi-chain, and they are looking at Ethereum and Solana, which definitely boosts Ethereum and Solana. The use of a public blockchain is definitely something that EU officials are taking more seriously now. Now, to be fair, this will probably take years and years to actually implement. We don't really know what it's like, but for this particular bull run, just the thought of an entire continent like the European Union essentially using your blockchain for their CBDC, that's a lot of transactions. Now, I don't know if that'll actually result in higher prices, like physically from like a technological standpoint, but that might not really matter all that much. Given the fact that it would actually give a lot of FOMO. Another person said a digital euro in private would look much more like what the Chinese central bank is doing than the private companies in the US are doing. So the private companies, obviously, they're referring to like Circle and Ripple, but they're actually looking at a public blockchain instead of a private one. So that's actually good for us, especially if you're an Ethereum or Solana investor. Obviously, it's open access, higher security, lower privacy, obviously, higher energy usage, higher immutability, and people can actually track it. The person specifically referred to China's central bank digital currency deployed privately as opposed to public-run stablecoins developed by companies like Circle. Circle obviously uses multiple blockchains, and I think that's the form that the euro is going to take. Europe is obviously responding to a US stablecoin push. They do actually want to have a little bit more dominance in the world in terms of like, just what currency is actually being used for international transactions. Obviously, the euro is only second to the US dollar, but they do actually see stablecoins as being a big part of the push in the future, and they want to join the game as well. In April, ECB Executive Board member Piero Cepolone called for cutting stablecoin usage in Europe by introducing a digital euro, citing adoption risks of US dollar-pegged stablecoins. That's really not working. For reference, both Tether and USDC have said that they want to make their own euro-based stablecoin sooner or later. But it looks like they want to push a CBDC. I don't know how successful this is going to be because like CBDCs have just not been very successful worldwide. A spokesman for the ECB did not explicitly confirm or deny that the bank has started exploring specific public networks such as Ethereum or Solana for a digital euro. Would the digital euro be based on distributed ledger technology such as a blockchain? The euro system is experimenting with different strategies, both centralized and decentralized, in the development of a digital euro, including distributed ledger technologies. However, a decision has not been taken. Should the EU eventually opt for a public digital euro design, there would be both positive and negative implications. According to Juan Ignacio Ibanez, General Secretary of MiCA Crypto Alliance. MiCA is the kind of framework for crypto and stablecoins in Europe. On the positive side, there is potential for a public blockchain-based digital euro to interoperate better with all infrastructure being developed on blockchain these years. On the negative side, this would introduce stronger state interest in influencing blockchain governance. So they haven't really decided whether to proceed with the digital euro project. I do think they eventually will. I personally think Europe would actually do better just adopting a lot of euro-based stablecoins. I think it's almost impossible to prevent US-based stablecoins from just dominating the market outright. But I think they would do better with euro-based stablecoins. But the fact that they're looking to put them on Ethereum and Solana, and I think it will be both chains, maybe some other chains, but the fact that they mentioned Ethereum and Solana first is a big win for those two chains. And of course, I do expect that to pump those two chains up in terms of price, especially during the bull run. Now, obviously, we got to talk about Jerome Powell and like what he did today to actually make markets go up. He did actually say that the market environment may be pointing to some interest rate cuts, but it's just an indication. He did not commit to any cuts. I think some people were a little disappointed, but overall the market reacted very, very positively. Maybe they're going to cool down a little bit now. I mean, we've had about $1,000 retrace, but after having a $4,000 pump, that really isn't anything new. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell on Friday gave a tepid indication of possible interest rate cuts ahead as he noted a high level of uncertainty that is making the job difficult for monetary policymakers, i.e. tariffs. With policy in restrictive territory, the baseline outlook and shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance. Now, that's all he said. Adjusting our policy stance obviously means cutting interest rates, because right now he is just holding interest rates consistent. Now, why has he said this? Obviously, I think it's mostly because of the readjustment in labor numbers that adjusted labor way down. And Trump's guy, after he fired the previous guy, came in again and adjusted labor numbers down again, I believe. So they look even worse for the next 2 or 3 months. So or the last 2 or 3 months. So because of that, the labor market is turning a little bit more grim, and that might force Jerome Powell to cut rates even as PPI goes up, because CPI has not actually gone up yet. He did, however, note the importance of Fed independence while addressing the White House demand for rate cuts. So he's basically saying that he's not going to bend to Trump, and he doesn't really care what Trump wants. He is still going to kind of like just do his thing. So in as much